This is the 12th and final video about the major differences between the base game of Civ 5, Brave New World, and Lek Mod. This is about coastal changes. I mentioned it briefly before, but there's essentially a few subtle things that are different in coastal play that really change the overall shape of the game as a coastal player. First of all is the map settings, and this is why I made the map settings, the first most important of the changes, because it affects everything, like I said. Well, the way it affects coastal is that you're always going to spawn as a coastal player on the outside continent. You're not going to get inland seas. You're not going to be trapped sort of in the interior of the continent, which is huge because that gives you a massive advantage on the one hand in that you have force projection. You can move across the seas and attack players when they don't expect it. You can use projected nukes and projected carriers with airplanes, etc., to launch attacks across oceans. The downside is it also makes you more vulnerable. The being on that outer sea means, yes, you can attack other players easier. Other players can also attack you. However, in one of the more notable changes in terms of units, frigates are no longer the almighty terror they used to be in the base game. They've been nerfed. I think they were 28 ranged combat and 25 melee, and now they're 25 and 23. It's a big difference. It used to be you were terrified of frigate attacks, just because they absolutely mowed down flatland cities. Frigates are still strong. They're not as strong as they used to be. So especially for new players, I would caution against doing frigate rushes. Some of the other things, I mentioned that there are different luxury yields for the coastal luxes as well. That comes both in the form of their actual yields as well as the pantheons that are available. I've got the God of the Sea pantheon here, which gives +1 culture and +1 faith. It's very nice. But also in actually improving the luxuries, workboats are now cheaper. Thank goodness, they're now down to 20 hammers, so they're not the overwhelming cost they used to be. It used to be so slow to have coastal starts because of all the hammers you had to invest into making workboats. No longer the case. What is still the case is the sort of costly cargo ships, but again, they're worth double yield, so they are worth getting out fairly quickly. However, one note of caution, because this is something even very good Civ 5 players fall to, is they don't take care to protect their coastal trade routes with ships. Because, like I mentioned before, there are all these islands that spawn now with the map generation. And these islands will have barb camps spawn on them, and those barb camps will produce barb galleys and barb triremes. Though I think barb galleys are being removed in the next patch. And those will come and pillage your trade routes. And if you're really unlucky, they'll go 2 for 1. So this is something to be careful about. Don't try and do unsecured sort of cargo ships. Get a general idea of where your barb camps are. So I've got an island right here, for example, that could spawn ships. And a camp right there that spawns ships. So I'm sending my first trade route. I've already sent one between these two cities. Then I might send my next one between these two cities. Just to keep them safe, keep them out of trouble. Don't get them pillaged. Because that's a major setback in your early game. In terms of overall policy selection, I mentioned it briefly before, but exploration is really this new sort of option when you go coastal. This is something that really only coastal players can take advantage of, and that is starting the game with relatively few cities, usually 2 or 3, sometimes as few as 1, and then going exploration in medieval, and picking this colonialism policy, which gives newly founded cities 2 extra population, a free worker, 6 tiles, and a building that gives 2 happiness. So essentially what players do is they settle a limited number of cities to start, and then in medieval era they go into exploration and they settle a whole bunch of cities on these islands that exist off the coast, and use this exploration tree to sort of catch back up. This is a strategy that it's workable. I would really advise for newer players to practice it in single player first, because if you can't pull it off in single player, you're not going to pull it off in a multiplayer game, and you'll either die or you will fall completely behind, because even good players can have trouble with this, pulling off this strategy. In terms of other sort of real big changes between the base game and the new game, would be the other thing to note would be gold, in that Lechmod gives you options to really increase your centralized gold. Part of it is that you can generate merchants when you really didn't generate merchants before, because the merchant and scientist timers are separated. So that means you can dump a bunch of merchants in your capital city, send trade routes from your capital city, earn a ton of gold. You can also pick, commerce is stronger, patronage is stronger. These generate a lot of gold. So this is the sort of wild card of coastal play, and especially tradition or piety coastal play, is that you can generate insane amounts of gold from your capital by sending trade routes. So if you're interested in a strategy for coastal play, that's something I might recommend to a newer player. Try and do one of these gold-based strategies, where you go patronage, or you go commerce, and you send out trade routes to city-states and ally them. And that's about it. So that's the last of these videos. I'll upload one more video as a sort of quick recap, nutshell, things to remember. But if you've made it through all 12, congratulations, and thank you. And hopefully you'll be able to sort of apply these lessons in the No Quitters community.